our next topic of the night, which is the number one turn off for women, neediness. Let me go ahead and play this clip.
Turn off for women is neediness. What's your thoughts on that?
Neediness is very different from having needs. Neediness is saying, I can't find solutions. I'm going to lay here crying until someone else solves my problem for me. It is not, like most men say, being a completely immovable stone that never has a weakness, because women don't want that either. They want to see that you have vulnerabilities and challenges that they can help you with, but they also want to see you rising to the occasion and solving those problems, because they want and respect a man who views solutions and approaches them and applies them.
They assume she doesn't want to hear from them again because she wasn't explicitly throwing herself at him.
So many guys who navigate from red pill into regular dating and say, she didn't try to sleep with me. What's wrong with me? And they build validation based on if she's trying to have sex with him. And women do this too. If you don't understand what real interest from a securely attached person looks like, you think they are uninterested or bored or boring.
The number one turn off for women is neediness. I'm going to go to you first, Shan. What are your thoughts about that?
I don't know. Neediness is repulsive to men like me because, we've kind of evolved to recognize it as a bad signal. It's like the fear of spiders. I'm not killing that spider. Oh, I need you to help. I'm not doing. I'm not stepping on that bug. Big old human being. I'm not going in that room. I need somebody to come kill the spiders for me. I get it, and that's cool, and that's cute. But then when you get to the point where you're begging or you're asking or you're wanting stuff that's kind of unnecessary, I think this is where if Mr. Let Go was here, he'd be screaming about the women or children part. Always asking somebody for something when you really don't need that becomes a problem. Now flip it on the other side when it's women and she got a man that's needy, especially when men are the ones that should provide and protect, should solve the problems for the women and for everybody up under his castle. He's the king. He's right. You want to be the head of household. You sitting on the throne, but you always needing and begging, it becomes almost like a role reversal. And so at that point, that becomes repulsive to women when she got a man that can't do for himself. This is what I call them producer males. I don't know where I got that term from. But if you're not a producer male, if you're not the kind of guy that can make things happen, and instead you're always asking or want or have to have somebody else do something for you, and then you're putting somebody else in the problem solving seat or the providing seat, it becomes very repulsive to women. So I agree with the video. I don't know if it's the number one turn off for women because, women are often, I was watching a video today talking about how they, are modern masculine women versus old school masculine women and the difference between the two. And, when you think of feminism and how it's conditioned women to say that they don't need men, and in fact, it's okay to try to get a guy that you want that doesn't really that doesn't really fill the position of being, they want this partnership these days. There's not a situation where, my man is the one in charge and he's helping me and he can teach me something. Cause that's what I've always heard. I want a man that can teach me something, but feminism is teaching women that you don't need a man that can teach you something. In fact, you guys, iron sharpens iron. You guys can teach each other, and women are learning later that they're repulsed by that. Just like, I forget her name. That was just announced that she filed for divorce today or yesterday. I forget her name, but Eva. Yeah, Eva. But her husband is just he's not an entertainer. Now her baby daddy is a friend of mine. Her child's father is a friend of mine. He's an Omega from out here in California. And he wrote music with Chris Brown and there's a whole issue between that, but that's who she gave a child to. And then she switched up and went to this guy over here who's just a simple attorney, and he's safe. And he's not an entertainer. He's not out there making movies. She just did that TV show, I think, called, I forget the name of it, where she's like sitting on the throne and got a whole bunch of men behind her on BET. Yeah. he don't have nothing to do with that stuff, you know. And if he's the kind of guy that's needy in a relationship, or is expressing himself and expressing and pouring out his heart to his girl, women kind of, that dries him up, man. So that's all I have on that. You know, I think it is absolutely a turnoff for women. I don't know if it's a number one turnoff, but it's certainly a turnoff for women to have a needy man.
All right. Humble Dad, what are your thoughts about it? Number one turnoff for women, neediness.
I'm not a woman, you know what I'm saying? So I don't really know what their number one turnoff is, you know what I'm saying? But I know that it is a turnoff, like Shan was saying, because you're supposed to be, you are the head of the relationship. You're the one that's supposed to be problem solving. And so if you are, or you're the one that is saying that I need help solving this problem all the time, then what's the point of you being in the leadership position? So I don't know if it's the number one, but it would have to be pretty high, you know, to that regard. So that's what I would say. The women don't want a needy dude.
All right, Sir Hill, what are your thoughts? Number one turn off for women, neediness.
I'm going to take a slightly different approach. Number one, there's a reason for this. Modern women, this is for you. Of course you don't want a needy man because you're needy. You need him to pay for all your meals and give you all of the time, fulfill all your sexual needs. So of course, there's no room for two needy people, but I digress. I think this is true, except for under one condition. Some women make men needy. I'll say this by this. If I'm in a relationship with you and you know that I need intellectual conversation, or my thing is I need affection, and you deprive me of that, well, what am I supposed to do and stay faithful to you, right? My only alternative is to step out, go get what I need from another woman, but you don't want that to be done, but you're not taking the time to give me what I need. So sometimes women can create neediness in the man and then not like him, even though she created that vacuum, that need that he has, right? So when I hear things like this, I take it into consideration. If a woman is doing all that she can do and all that she's supposed to do and doing right by her man, and he just has this neediness, then that's a legitimate complaint that she has. But if she's not doing her job, like she not giving him sex, she's not giving him conversation, whatever he needs, then she can't complain about. That's not really neediness. That's a need that's unfulfilled. And sometimes, a lot of times, women hear that complaint from their man and assumes he's being needy, and it's like, no, he's empty. He needs that need to be felt. So I wanted to throw that in there because it's really easy to just say a man is being needy when his needs are not being fulfilled, if that makes any sense.
So not fulfilling the love language creates a neediness. Is that what you're kind of saying?
It can look like it, right? It can look like it.
Okay, but it's not necessary, because you started off, Sir Hill, you said women create neediness in men, but you ended up saying it's not really neediness. It just, you think it's what it is, but it's something else.
And the reason I say that is because he has the option to leave. That's what I'm saying. So if he sits around begging her to give it to him, right, it can look like that if he's just going to sit there, he don't have any other options. It's always options if you that dude. That's why I put that out there like that.
All right.
I agree with what Sir Hill said, for sure. I definitely think that when it comes to neediness, I think that it's kind of like a duality. I think that when it comes to sexually, I think women are turned off by needy men. But I do believe that their ego is actually turned on by men being needy. I think that women feel emotionally secure when they have some type of leverage over a man. And I feel that, like, when they're in a relationship, especially a secure relationship, creating that neediness that Sir Hill talked about, I think that helps to give them the leverage. And it helps to give them that emotional security by saying, all right, well, I know you can't get this need met somewhere else. So knowing that you're vulnerable and needy in that way makes me feel secure. But I think that the reason why that tends to be a problem, especially in marriages, is because simultaneously, sexually, it's not a turn on for them. Sexually, it's like, oh, you're needy. That's drying me up. So I think it's a duality. I think different parts of a woman's psyche are attracted to and unattracted to neediness.
All right. Sweeney, what are your thoughts about it? Number one turn off for women, neediness.
I kind of rock with what Sir Hill said. And I was going to kind of go in the direction of we have to define what is neediness, because I think a lot of people misinterpret what
just
that
put it in
is.
the back chat. I just did that. Looked up the definition. Yeah.
Like a lot of, well, I didn't look up the definition, but I think what happens is that a lot of people in relationships count too much. They will always talk about what they've done for somebody. I've done this. I've done that for you. I've done that for you. There's so many. All of us have had conversations with women where they talk about how much they've done for somebody. Then if you had the pleasure of actually talking to the man, you find out the one thing that he needed, he was not getting. The one thing that he actually desired, that he's asked for countless times, he did not get, or vice versa. So I think what happens is that we don't understand that, hey, look, I think it's a form of shaming someone if they tell you, hey, look, I need this from you. And you say, oh, well, hold on now. All you doing is begging me and you so needy. Like, no, there's a need. And I think a lot of times in relationships, a lot of people are handcuffed to their relationships, either via religion, via the state, via their own ego, Will Smith, via their own obligation. And they want their partners to be able to do the things they need them to do. And oftentimes we see instances where people don't do it. And next thing you know, people are complaining about how needy someone is.
My brother was like, because of politics, because of religion, because of education, because of Will Smith, because of Will Smith.
Y'all can't tell me Will Smith is the only thing holding Will Smith in that marriage is the fact that he vowed that he would never get a divorce.
Yeah, I can agree.
Oh, yeah. Got divorced already. Oh, yeah. He already got divorced from his first wife. So,
what's wrong with that as a reason?
It really is nothing wrong with it. I guess I'm last. Damn, it's hard to go last. Y'all had good points.
Oh, you're not the last one.
Oh, my bad. I ain't leave you out because you light skinned. My bad. That had nothing to do with it at all. I didn't do that. All right, so the neediness of men. I may be throwing a curveball here. Let's see. The neediness of men is disgusting to well-adjusted women, but it's actually, in my opinion, desirable to maladjusted women. Only after maladjusted women start listening to their nature, right, do they find neediness disgusting. We got to think about it. This is the Pookie and Ray Ray argument. How the hell did these dudes get access to women in the first place? I told you, I just said it. I do not believe there are at any greater percentage ineligible men, unmarriageable men in society than have ever been. Women just knew better than to associate with these dudes. And it's because of this maladjustment, raising kids in single parent homes and all of that, that you have women acting outside of their nature to find neediness sexy, right? For a time. And by the time they get to YouTube, their nature told them otherwise. They got 2 kids by the wrong man. So they actually find neediness sexy. Somebody kind of covered it a little bit, but at the beginning, right? Before they start listening to their nature. And the alternative of this and the proof of it is that the same behavior is found in maladjusted men trying to fix women that, are versions of their mothers, so to speak. Right? So that's what I got.
That's dope, man.
Yeah. I mean, just to kind of back the truck up a little bit, I really did like what Sir Hill said. I just think that, unfortunately, a lot of people are just not really having those conversations up front and telling their partner what they need, and how to show up in their relationship, right? It almost seems like a lot of people have been conditioned to move and operate in such an independent mindset that they don't understand that, relationships tend to operate in more interdependent of each other, right? There's this cycle of feeding into each other. It's like, okay, like, we need to spend quality time together, or we need to sit, like, I need you in this aspect, right? And people are like, oh, damn, like, you can't do that by yourself, or it's like, oh, you're smothering me. And that couldn't be further from the truth. I just think that people, unfortunately, get into their ways and they neglect certain aspect of their partner, or they take the advantage of the fact that they know that they need them, but they just are reluctant to kind of pour into them when they need it the most. And to, you know, trigger Mike's point, there's a lot of women out here who are dealing with hobosexuals. Dudes ain't got no good credit, ain't got no apartment, ain't got no job, right? And those women who date those types of men, they like that because they like the power dynamic of it. They like he isn't going anywhere. I got him locked down. I hold all the keys to all the locks, right? Like I give him money, or I, you know, took him to get a haircut or whatever. Trust me, you don't know how many conversations I've had with certain women who have friends who are dealing with someone who he just doesn't work, or he's just underemployed, but she pays all the bills and she has 2 jobs, right? They exist and they know better, but they somehow inherently like that power dynamic until that power dynamic doesn't work in their favor, and they go and realize that they've wasted a lot of time with someone that they did not have a future with.
So I got a question. Homosexuals are not to be blamed. These are opportunists, and women who invite men like that deserve the man he is, because she needed something in him to validate something in her. So that's how I see that. But I got a question for you. Let's say a man is in a relationship with a woman, right? They're married, and when before it got serious, I mean, she was throwing that thing down. I mean, she was throwing it back on him. It gets serious. A child later, the sex stops, right? And his drive is still way up there. Hers is down. And he's communicating like, look, you know, we went from 2 times a day to like maybe once a week, right? He's communicated this need. And this conversation has been going on for 2, 3, 4, 5 months. And she's starting to say that he's starting to sound needy. Now, from those details, is he being needy, or is it just his need not being fulfilled?
His need is not being.
I think it's both.
Well,
go ahead, Luis.
No, I was. You know, it's interesting. You both 2 people said both. You know, I probably should think about that a little bit harder, but I would say that his need isn't met because, you know, obviously, you know, as life settles in and, you know, you start a family and all these other components start coming, obviously there needs to be a conversation about that, right? It's people act like, you know, relationships work in a vacuum where we're just mind readers. We just know what's on our partner's mind. But I think that unfortunately that conversation, those sort of things are not really talked about enough, because they could easily be resolved.
And why do you say both, Humble Dad? Because wouldn't neediness indicate that there's some sort of excessive need for something, excessive acceptance, or some sort of excessive acceptance in some capacity?
Well, I mean, the definition was different, but I'll go with the definition that y'all using. I mean, if I need sex, right? Every man needs that, right? And so if we're without it, it becomes, and we're asking for it, and it becomes a needing. We will become needy, right? Because we're not getting it, right? If we were getting it and we do need it, and we're getting it, then we're not being needy, right? Does that make sense?
I hear
It's
what you're
only
saying,
it's only that we're becoming needy because we're not getting it. Right.
exactly.
I get what you're saying. I guess I probably wouldn't consider it neediness, and I would go with a need not being fulfilled because they had no problem fucking twice a day when they was dating. In the early stages of the relationship, it wasn't neediness. It was just a matter of that's just what they did. And when she stopped doing what she was doing, and he's asking why, what's going on, you know, and then she responds back, you know, you becoming needy.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying, that she made him be needy.
I just don't think it's
definition of needy is in need.
I don't know. Maybe it's semantics.
Because she's the one that's saying that he's needy, right? He's saying this is a need. And I'm not needy. No, that's not what it is. Is that you won't give me what it is that I need. So and because you're creating an excuse not to give it to me, now you're going to use the verbiage that I'm needy, right?
Well, needy means in need. So if you need something and you're not getting it, by virtue of you not getting it, you're being made needy because the thing you need, you're not getting it. So you're in need now. So
right,
yeah.
I was going to say, I think the part that makes it hard to understand that it is both is the fact that there's that we've applied a negative connotation to neediness, where there's actually nothing wrong with neediness, because all of us need something at any given point in time. So, and I think to be deprived does create neediness, but there shouldn't be a negative connotation to it.
But just so you know, context, the definition is a negative connotation, but I was only going with the definition that y'all using, right? Like the definition is what it says. Well, it's different translations, obviously, because it says often associated with not trusting in others and often a fear of abandonment. That's the actual definition of neediness.
That's neediness.
Yeah.
Right.
That's neediness. Yeah, that's neediness. Right.
Yeah. When you look at needy, it's just being in need or impoverished.
That's fair.
And then, and then the second one is wanting or needing affection, attention, or reassurance, especially to an excessive degree. That's the second definition.
Yeah, that's why. But we're scrolling across was the word neediness. That's why I looked at it. But I got you.
Yeah. So look, why don't we do this? Since this is King Talk, right? And we talking to kings, and we talking to kings in the making. One thing I heard somebody mention was homosexual, and I heard my man Sir Hill. He was like, can't blame the homosexual if the women is allowing it to happen. But I don't know. Okay, let me touch to the fathers of boys. Fathers of boys. I have 2 sons, and often, and my oldest son is 7, my youngest is 4. They'll be 5 and 8 this year, and oftentimes I detect neediness in my children that I know that they're getting from women. Now, I don't believe in toxic masculinity. In fact, I'm a proponent. If I should make T-shirts that say I'm toxic, I'm toxically masculine. I don't have no problem with that. I'm a man's man. I come from the 70s, so it's a different era. Fuck that. Men are men, and when I see young boys do things that I think are needy, it irks the shit out of me. And I don't think that it's not. I think they're being conditioned. I think it's part of an indoctrination, whether they know it or not, conscious or subconscious, whether the women know that they're doing that. And now we start talking about single mothers, and we're talking about young men today, the Z's and the millennials that grew up with just a mother, and they're overly emotional. There was no masculine energy to combat all that feminine energy that they were getting while they were being raised. And I think that a lot of men who have raised young boys or are currently raising young boys probably see what I've seen in young men myself. And it's just like, yo, don't ask that. So what do we do as kings to teach young kings how to not be needy, even if there's no father around? And I think one step is the get shit done theory. There's a theory on they call it get shit done. So, but I'm curious as to you guys, what do you think that we can do or say right now on this show for young men to hear so they won't become needy as they get into their relationships, as they're coming of age and growing up?
Just for context, needy in what arena? So when I think, do you need money? Does he need emotional connection? Like, what are we talking about? Just so we can frame it correctly.
Whatever comes to mind, because I'm basically saying that, what you hear is men, granddad walked through the snow 2 miles just to go to school. And with no jacket on, no socks, and we did all of that. And now kids, if they bump their toe, they crying and they go to mama and they say, and mama's kissing on them and all that kind of stuff. And he has to have an air conditioned and a heated car and 3-4 jackets and a t-shirt and a tank top and just to stay warm and all these things that are ultimately making young men soft. And so when it comes to the world and how rough the world can be, and how difficult it is to deal with having a boss at a job, or dealing with law enforcement out in the streets, or running into other guys that may take what you own, you know, and just dealing with just the harshness of the world. Are men being prepared to be able to handle that? You know, I'm not saying that we're in no Neanderthal days and we out here like the Vikings and shit, and there's not pirates and whatnot walking up and down the city streets, but it is kind of tough out there, depending on where you live, especially. So how can we, in whatever capacity you think, Sir Hill, help these young men not become needy to the point where they can make things, again, like I mentioned earlier, producer males. I like producer males. I don't like it when I hear young men always asking and won't even put any thought into figuring out stuff and learning how to do something, or you know, reverse engineer it and learn how to figure it out so you can make it happen for yourself without asking always for somebody else to help you the way women do.
That's a fantastic question. So I'll start with two things. Most young boys, we don't instill a sense of pride in them. So when you were talking about grandfather back in the day, they operated from a sense of pride, whether it was who they were representing, what they were after, it was instilled in them. So they didn't want to ask for help because they could do it themselves. I'll pick it up myself. I'll go do it. I'll fight myself. It was that pride. A lot of young men today don't have that instilled in them. Matter of fact, I think I think that so many generations, 70s, early 80s, we went through very difficult times, and we're the generation who says, I'm not going to raise my kids like my mom and them did me. Right. And what we do is we magnify the bad stuff that happened, but we overlook some of those core lessons that made us what we are today. Right. So I think we got to instill a sense of pride. And then the other thing is we got to be okay with letting our boys fail and figure it out. If you don't figure it out, you don't get it. If you don't work for it, you won't have it. If you don't try, well, I don't care. If we're the backup plan every time something goes wrong and we'll do it for them, they'll never learn, because we're teaching them that all they have to do is do something, and something is enough. We don't teach them completion. We don't teach them difficulty and falling and figuring it out and being frustrated, saying I quit and then coming back to it again. So we got to instill pride, and don't fix it for them. Don't give it to them. If they don't work for it, they don't get it, and that's on you. I think if we do that, I think that helps to instill what you're talking about, Shan.
Absolutely.
Where'd JR go? Yeah, the get shit done theory, it's an approach to everyday life, right? And there's tenets in it. I didn't do a show, but I was thinking about doing a show because on the get shit done theory and what it is. Let me see if I got my notes, because I did make notes on it before. Yeah, so the get shit done. Where's my yellow notes? Apple Notes, GTD. Where's it? Here's GTD. Right. So young men that's listening to King Talk, that's aspiring to be a king yourself, get shit done. Simple and plain. It's in 3 simple words. Get shit done. And not necessarily always asking or, hey, how do you do? Now you can ask OGs, you can ask older men, you can ask people that's done it before you. Absolutely. Don't get me wrong. Call me, call any of these brothers on this panel. We'd be happy to help you. But when you turn around, and I'm gonna just keep it 100, when you turn around, you're asking your girl, babe, you know, because you hear it all the time. I filled out his application. You know, he needed a job, so I had to help him with applying for to get his EIN. He wants to start a business, but I had to get his EIN number. He don't know how to do that, so I had to take care of his LLC. He wanted to get he heard about getting an LLC or a court, you know, a C corp, but he didn't know what to do. So I had to. No, bro, you figure it out. You teach her how to get the EIN or the LLC.
But are those dudes? But are those type of dudes actually asking for it, or do you tend to see women just trying to push him in that direction? He may have said, man, one day I want to open up a business. And that was all he cared about. He just made that thought, and that was it. And then she took the initiative to go and be like, all right, well, he wants to open up a business. I'm tired of him sitting on my couch. All right, well, let me go ahead and get his EIN number. All right, well, let me go ahead and do this for him and do that for him. What she's not realizing is that you just got a guy who has a bunch of plans but don't actually care to execute them, and she's forcing herself to execute them for him. I don't think
then we need to talk to him too, because if he's sitting on her couch and he's not executing, he's not a producing male.
Man, leave that fool where he at. You gonna waste your time trying to talk to that dude?
Well, here's the thing. That's what I'm saying. I like to talk to young men. Like I got brothers that this dude that's my age that you just described. It's a lost cause for them because I can't talk to them. They're not listening to me, and they think they know everything anyway. But the young ones are they are a sponge. They're a sponge for knowledge, and I just don't want them to be led wrong to just turn around and get emasculated later when they turn 30.